that got to do with leadership. Everybody has a turn at adversity. You might not do something that is so dramatic that you end up in prison, but everybody gets a turn at going through tough stuff. Would you agree? Everyone. People say, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. That's only half true. What is important, what makes you stronger, is the years of strengthening and preparation that you have built into your life, so that when you get to that adversity, you've got something to draw on that will sustain you through that experience. And that is your character. That is controlling your thinking. That is having a sense of purpose and a sense of destiny and belief in what you're doing. I've always believed that I would do something meaningful. And when we were wealthy, it was funding philanthropic projects that we had. That was our dream. We got to the point where we didn't have to work anymore. So every month we were funding operations for cleft palate in Vietnam because of the nutrition so bad. There's often birth defects. And there's different charities that we were looking at. That's not to say how great we were. It was our dream, and that's what we were doing. We had a sense of purpose. And I felt like, was that robbed? And you might come up with a disappointment in your career and in your business and feel like, I've been robbed. I've been robbed, therefore I am entitled. Well, you're not entitled. Well, everyone's entitled to do it tough every now and again. Life isn't fair. Fair is what you pay to ride the bus. Stop expecting it to be fair. It is what it is. Deal with what it is with the tools that you learn, that you get. And give yourself to the training that you have. And the training that I'd had over 20 years, guess what? I'm a pastor's kid. How embarrassing is that? Aren't we the guys that are supposed to be extra straight? Even the women in prison called me a 180 straighty. That means that not only am I conservative in my values, I'm not a lesbian. Now, yeah, that's funny, but when you're in a women's prison, the fact is, lots of them are, for various reasons. A lot of them have been, well, 90% of them have been abused in some way since they were little, or as a young woman. And so some of them out of that will turn the other way. And so they have all sorts of mix-up in them. Some of them are that way because that's how they are. It's fine. 50% of the officers would be butch lesbians. That was a real eye-opener to me because I thought that was just a stereotype that movies portrayed. No, that's one of the ones that actually turns out to be pretty well true. And when it comes to questions, I'd like you to relax and, you'll be having thoughts, I wonder about this, I wonder about that. Feel free to ask me. Because when you've been strip searched by a pair of butch lesbians, officers, not the women, then there's really nothing left to be embarrassed about. Though when I came home, I was very embarrassed. I didn't want anyone to find out. But I'd already written a book on fraud warning signals and not yet published it, and I had to make a decision, would I go public? And I'd made that decision, obviously, because I'm here. And since then, people have wanted to know, what are the keys that helped you survive? Well, some of them I've talked to you about. It's that preparation, it's that having a sense of purpose. If I can really impress on you that the businesses that you are in are not businesses, they're people. Just as you said, there's people, you're in the people business, and the way you guide your people is the way this country will go. A survey was done by a company a couple of years ago that said Gen Y and Gen X, and to a lesser extent baby boomers, admitted to either doing this or knowing people who did, giving free or unauthorised discounts to family and friends in their job. Now, that might be the Australian way. Maybe it is, but it's theft and it's fraud. It's not the Australian way. It's dishonest. But if that's a culture that we're developing, then we're in trouble. But as leaders, if you know in your businesses you can establish those boundaries so that you can address these ethical issues. We've got a generation of young people coming through who are unparented with both parents living at home. They have two parents at home who are not doing their job. They're not building the strength into their young ones. You are, as leaders, surrogate parents to these young ones. You are the ones who will instill in them values and ethics and boundaries and safety nets. It's you. And when you do that well, our country will move forward the way that it should. Leadership is inspired, but it's in everyone. Yes, it's true, you've got leaders and you've got the rest, but everyone at least leads themselves. They lead themselves the right way or the wrong way or a directionless way, but they're going somewhere. And to have that sense of purpose, that's what sustained me. Now, I come from a faith background. You may not. That's okay for you. That's fine. But that is that sense of... See, in my culture, there's a thought, there's a verse that says, and my God will make all things work together for good for those who love him. And I clung to that. I thought, there is nothing that can happen to me that cannot be turned around. Whether you're a faith person or not, there is nothing in your life that happens that you cannot turn around. I didn't know how it would happen. I'm going through this prison experience. I'm sharing a cell with Big Bertha, who's coming off heroin addiction, and she's a lesbian, and she's rough, and fortunately there's only 2 swear words in prison, and neither of them are Jesus or Christ. It's all right. They're not part of my vocabulary, and they weren't at the time. They have a few little French words like mouth past my lips, if you know what that means. Little ones. So I wasn't perfect. But even in there, you're powerless. You have officers are very much like school teachers, where you have the ones who care and want to make a difference. You have the ones who have checked out. These are all leadership qualities that you're aware of. They've checked out, they don't care, they just turn up, get their pay packet. And then you get the ones who think that they are dealing with the enemy every day of their life, that who they're dealing with is rotten scum of the earth, whether it be rotten little kids that are going to ruin the nation, or whether it be prisoners. But being part of it, I got to see them as individuals, as people. And I had no power, and yet I had influence. And the influence I had was because I cared. One of the drawbacks to my character is that I'm a rescuer by nature. And that's why I failed. But that rescuing nature, in the right balance, is actually caring. Now, men fix, women rescue, and often both times it ends us up in the poo and we're not thanked for it. But don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You still, within boundaries, within margin, connecting with those people, you will be surprised at the qualities you can draw out. I think of one woman who, yes, another lesbian, 6 foot, mixed race, attitude about it, very aggressive, held herself in such a way that she just was very strong, knew what she was, and I was fascinated. And I won't say I had a relationship with her because that'll come across wrong. But I built a friendship with her because I found her so interesting, and there was nothing I could give. I didn't smoke, so she couldn't take my tobacco. I just cared. And it turns out that she actually looked out for me. So I didn't get bullied. I was totally unafraid while I was there, not because of her, but because, how do I explain it? It was like the Twilight Zone. I felt a sense of destiny, that even though that that judge had judged me, I felt like he had no authority over my life. I was there because it was part of a plan of my life. Now, the plan for my life was not that I would stuff up, but because I'd stuffed up, it was being changed around and being used. And I was able to connect with these women and actually be an influence on them. I'm not going to say that they stopped taking drugs or that they're never going to commit crime again. But I was able to care. And there was one woman who, I saw her crying, sitting on the ground. Imagine a concrete yard about the size of this area here. Basketball hoop at one end, metal mesh up the walls and across the top. She was sitting there on the ground crying. No one was going near her. And of course, me, heart on the outside. I said, what's going on? She had just been told that when she gets out, she will not be getting her children back from family services. Now, I could have thought, well, you must be a real crap mum. Lucky for those kids, they're not going back to you. No, this was a broken human being. And I sat with her and I took her hand and I said, you know, there's nothing I can do for you. There was no one I could ring up to help her, nothing at all. And I said, but you know what? My God loves you. You matter. You have value and there is a purpose for your life. And you're loved. And she looked at me. I didn't know whether she believed in God or not. She'd never been given the chance because she said to me, no one has ever said anything like that to me before in my life. And I cried with her and I prayed with her, but I may not have changed her life for good, but I, a powerless prisoner, took leadership and I changed that moment in that woman's life. And I'm pretty sure she won't forget that for a long